All right, Steeler fans, this is a big one. It's time to go behind enemy lines for the Baltimore Ravens Week 11 game at Acrisure Stadium. And of course, the Fans First Sports Network arm for the Baltimore Ravens is the Cobb podcast. We have Brandon and Josh here. Brandon, how's it going?
Hey, great to be here. It feels good. It's Ravens Steelers, nothing better.
This is a big game. Josh, welcome. How are you?
Absolutely, Jeff. Thanks for having us on the show once again. Behind enemy lines, we'd love to do it with you, and we have a big one on Sunday. Can't wait.
Okay, there's so many questions I have for you guys just because not so much about the team. I know a lot about the Ravens because obviously we pay close attention. I just want to know about for like the fan base. So let's start off where this piqued my interest so early in the week. The opening line was the Ravens spotting 3.5 points on the road in Pittsburgh. I said, is someone drunk at the sports books? I mean, I get that they might be favored, but 3.5 points, the line shifts to 3 and now it's back up to 3.5 because I just checked before we hit record. Brandon, I'm sure you saw this. What were your thoughts when you saw it?
You know what? I feel like the people making up these don't know this rivalry at all.
Yeah.
I mean, it's just kind of wild that it has been this way. And I know Josh can kind of jump in here too, but there's a history that the Steelers have won the majority of the games. I think the last 10 games or so, they've won 7, something like that. But there's a little asterisk there for a couple of those games. You know, Ravens didn't play a lot of their starters for one of them. So like, I think I was kind of shocked that it was 3.5 because all these games are always so close. And, you know, history really isn't on the Ravens side on paper, at least for the last couple games.
All right, Josh, chime in. I know you got a lot to say probably.
Yeah, I mean, the line itself just speaks. And like you, I had to do a double take because I was like, wait a minute, the Baltimore Ravens are favored in Pittsburgh? Like, timeout. Like, I expected us to be underdogs. And now I just checked the betting line live on the show. It's at 3 even right now. Ravens are favored by 3. So that tells you all. Like, maybe it's the respect factor of Lamar Jackson and the offense. Maybe it's a little disrespect to the Steelers considering, you know, some shenanigans going on with their early start, and thinking like, okay, well, because their harder half is at the end, right? So they're maybe like thinking like, here comes a divisional play. Obviously, you played a tough one against the Commanders, and it was a great win for you guys. And I'll give you that. So I mean, yeah, the line, I'm really shocked. I mean, obviously, I'm pleased on our side, but then it's also like, what's really going on? Because typically, I think the Ravens are always underdogs in Pittsburgh on the road, especially now the Steelers have a game, half a game edge. Right now, it's anybody's game. These two teams are evenly matched, and I'm surprised it's not 1.5 right now. Like, I'm just being honest with you, this is a coin flip.
I'm not surprised with the Ravens' prolific offense that they are favored. I'm honest to God, not surprised they're favored. I was surprised by the 3.5 opening line, and it shifted down to 3.5, depending on where you get your odds from. It surprised me. We'll put it that way. But let's talk about this Ravens team, which is scoring points at a ridiculous clip, but also giving up a crap ton of points considered to what we're used to seeing from the Ravens, and sporting the 32nd worst pass defense in the NFL. But don't worry, they still stop the run better than any team in the NFL. Brandon, can you please try to explain this Jekyll and Hyde, seemingly, that's what it seems like, defense of the Baltimore Ravens? I can't wrap my head around it from afar.
Well, from afar, I mean, it's hard to wrap your head around it right when you're living in Baltimore. It really is, because this team can be Jekyll and Hyde in the same game. I mean, you look at some of these games that the Ravens have played so far. You look at like the Buffalo Bills game or the Denver Broncos game, and the Ravens look unstoppable. They look like they could be undefeated. They look like a team that's already ready to go for the Super Bowl. And then there's other games where they just kind of lay an egg. And I mean, I got to say that a lot of it has to go on the defensive coordinator, Zach Orr. He's a rookie in that position. A lot of guys left the Baltimore organization in the offseason, but the Ravens really wanted to invest in him. I think this is kind of like rookie jitters for this guy. He's kind of learning as he goes. He's learning on the job. They've recently brought in Dean Pease to kind of help him kind of lead the way. But this past game, this Thursday game, he came out of the press conference and said, you know, I lost sleep over this last game. It took me a couple days to get over. And he said on Tuesday during film study that the other coaches and players were kind of calling him out, saying like, you got to do better. You got to do this. You got to do that. And it's true. It falls on Zach Orr. And I mean, to each their own, but you know, he's 10 weeks into his career as a defensive coordinator. It's going to take time to get better. Now, don't get me wrong. Brandon Stevens and other players on the defense also need to play better. But I think a lot of it does fall on Zach Orr, and it's just because he's a rookie.
Yeah, I mean, after the Thursday night win over Cincinnati, which say what you want about that win, but you saw these interviews coming out like Marlon Humphrey. It sounded like they lost. I mean, that they were literally like devastated that they allowed Jamar Chase and company to just do what they wanted. Josh, what's going on with the pass defense, man? They're not good. You can't put lipstick on a pig here. They're not good.
Oh, we try. Yeah, I mean, no matter how way you try to describe it, it's horrible. That's one of the best cliches, obviously, to use. This pass defense is atrocious. I actually like the mood of the team. You know, they're not out there dancing, celebrating the win. Like, even as fans, we're a little bit upset. Like we could very well lose this game. What kind of NFL are we living in that 2 games they allowed Burrow to throw 5 touchdowns and Joe Burrow lost both games? Think about that, right?
Oh, yeah.
And we just came off a weekend where Jared Goff for the Lions throws 5 picks and wins the game. So the NFL is crazy this year, Jeff. But, you know, sticking to the point, you know, you let Jamar Chase have one of the best career days in receiving history. I mean, 11 catches, 264 and 3 touchdowns. If you'd have told me the Bengals stat line, you would think the Ravens lost that game like 60-14. But it's also credit to what the Ravens could do offensively. Now, this is the first time in probably that I can remember that the defensive pedigree is going away, and now the Ravens are scoring 30, 40 points. But that's not sustainable, and I think the Ravens know that. I don't think you can outscore every opponent every single weekend, and they got to get it fixed because they're not going to be a playoff team. I mean, they might even sneak in, but you're not going to go far with this type of defense, man. It's just not going to happen. And I like the mood of the team. I love the mood of Humphrey saying, like, they're taking it personal. We have to get better. But it's week in and week out. And what's even more of an enigma, about a little over a month ago, they hold a Josh Allen-led offense. Josh Allen accounted for 0 touchdowns, and they held the Bills to 10 points. Yeah. But then you give up 29 on the road to Jameis Winston. I just don't get it. Like, trust me, if you're looking from your point of view, I'm sure you don't get it either. But think about that. It's like the Ravens defense, it's just hard to figure out because it's like they can shut you down. And look what they did to Denver. 10 points allowed and did the same thing, and they didn't give up garbage time points. So it's just it's a weird year with this defense, man. And I can't put a finger on it, but thank God we have Lamar Jackson. And he can score 30 plus at any given point in time because they were down 14 and they came right back in it, man. And obviously the fumble and the turnover was the turning tide of the game, which is great. And that's another thing. The Ravens defense has a lack of ability to create turnovers this year for some reason. They can't do it.
All right, so I want to go back. I want to rewind the tape all the way back to before the season started. And for those that listen to my podcast and they never miss it, they're diehard listeners. You all have heard these guys on the show last year in the offseason. And I asked you all, who would you rather see on as quarterback for the Steelers? And you both resoundingly said you don't want to see Justin Fields. You think he's definitely more of a challenge. And then Russell Wilson gets called in. After Justin Fields leads the Steelers to 4-2, Mike Tomlin makes the ballsy decision to go to Russell Wilson. And what have we seen from Russell Wilson? Kind of found the fountain of youth. The Steelers are a little bit more prolific. They're scoring more points. They're averaging over 23 points per game, which is a far cry from where the Ravens are. But still, for the Steelers, they've averaged 17 and 18 the last 2 years, respectively. So this is a huge jump in the right direction. Brandon, what's your take on Russell Wilson being the quarterback for the Steelers? And do you think that poses a unique challenge to this Ravens defense we just spoke about?
Absolutely, it does. It's a huge challenge for the Baltimore Ravens, and I'm shocked. I really am. I thought Russell Wilson was done. I thought, he's not going to even make it through. He was supposed to be your week 1 starter, correct?
Yeah,
and
correct.
He got hurt, and Justin Fields was called in. So I was like, well, he's a backup now. That's going to be what he's going to do moving forward. And credit to Mike Tomlin for making that call to make that switch, because it was kind of like, you guys are doing okay. Like, why are you making this switch? It seems to be working out, but it's still working out. And that is the one thing I will say about, I will give it credit to the Pittsburgh Steelers, where the Ravens seem very Jekyll and Hyde. The Steelers, with making changes at quarterback and everything like that, they have been very consistent throughout this entire season. And that's something that the Ravens are still kind of searching for. And it might be the leadership of Russell Wilson helping make that consistency. He didn't gripe when he missed a couple games and Justin Fields came in, and he's showing right now that he can still play in the league. Like, I really thought You take a guy out of Seattle. He does really poorly in Denver. Wherever he goes next, he's not going to excel. But Russell Wilson has been quite surprising, and he's doing what he's got to do in Pittsburgh. So kudos to him. But he's going to have it's a tall order to go up against this pass rush and go up against Kyle Van Noy and Nnamdi Madubuike this coming Sunday. So he's got his work cut out for him, and I believe this is his first Ravens Steelers game. So
Yes.
he's got something to prove. Like, you're not a true Raven or a true Steeler until you've been in one of these games and you've gotten a win.
That's true. I know the Ravens say that. I heard Arthur Millette, former Steeler, say he's still not a Raven yet, which I think is funny. But anyways, so Josh, are you ready for the moon ball, the Russell Wilson moon ball to George Pickens and Mike Williams against those defensive backs, or what?
Hey, I'm ready for it. I don't know if our defense is, but they better be ready to defend that. And look, you got to give respect where respect's due. I for one would, always been on the side of the Russ's cooking train is gone, right? Like, you've seen what happened since he left Seattle. It was an abysmal stint in Denver. He was being making fun of, and it was atrocious, man. And sometimes a change of scenery is good for you, right? So. And even, with the injury early on, it's like, oh, here we go. He's hurt. And here comes Justin Fields. And they start off with a winning record. And you're like, all right, Russ is done. And kudos for Tomlin. I have to give respect. I will, give him his flowers and say, hey, bud, like, he made the coaching move even when a lot of pundits were against it. And he's kind of like, look at me now, right? Like, he's got that swagger. But I also believe that maybe the when I say the old Russ was previously in Denver. Maybe he's lurking there somewhere, and you have to get to him. But yeah, I think Pickens and that moon ball from Russ is going to be a problem. You've seen what Chase does to the Ravens all the time, and I'm already saying, if you have any sort of betting props or fantasy, you better be starting Pickens or somebody on this receiving core, because they're going to go off. Unless the Ravens absolutely just crush it and they surprise, and you're like, they shut him down. Are you kidding me? But just judging from the last game, a little less than 2 weeks ago, it was a mess. And
Yeah.
They look lost. I mean, just seeing Marcus Williams out there with his back turned, I'm like, these guys are professionals. Like, what are you guys doing? Like, whether it's scheme or whether it's players, I don't know, but it's going to be something to defend. And we already knew the Ravens are really good against the run. So yes, Najee Harris and Jalen Warren are going to get theirs, but I don't expect them to go running all over the field in this defense. So obviously it's going to be through the air for Pittsburgh to win the game, or at least have success against this team.
Yeah, and we talked a lot about the defense. Let's talk about the offense. So it is prolific, and it's great running the ball. It's great passing the ball. They're putting up a lot of points. There has to be something that someone has done this season, and I don't know who it was. You all watch every game. I don't. Is there anything that anyone's done that is kind of given the Ravens some fits from an offensive perspective? Maybe it is just rushing the passer, getting Lamar off his spot, getting him uncomfortable. He's pretty comfortable out of the pocket. He's a much better passer this year than I have seen in his entire career. He's much more accurate, especially on the run. Brandon, what's the weak link? Is there one to this Ravens offense?
At the beginning of the year, it was the offensive line, and that's what really you got to see the Raiders kind of get to Lamar as much as he wanted to. Daniel Falele was not doing well and was not blocking for Lamar Jackson, but the last 2 games, this offensive line has really awakened, and they are giving Lamar as much time as he wants. They are making holes for Derrick Henry. I believe they allowed 1 sack in the last 2 games. So I think that it's going to be a real test with the Pittsburgh defense to see how this offensive line still holds up against them. We know that these type of games are kind of in the trenches. So that's really going to be a test for how good this offensive line can be. They've shown what they can do the last couple weeks, and Lamar's been given time. And if one thing doesn't work, Lamar makes plays happen. And there have been some times where these guys have dropped a ball. It seems like a couple games ago, it seemed like every single person, doesn't matter what Lamar was doing, he could hit you right in the numbers. They were still dropping a ball. I think it was in Cleveland. And they said, oh, the sun was in our eyes and we couldn't see this, couldn't see that. And that was a big thing that week. And it was just for whatever reason, nobody was able to catch a ball. Luckily, it seems as if those problems have gone away. But, if Lamar is having issues getting the ball to somebody on the ground, he can throw it. There's so many weapons here. But early on in the season, I think the issue was the offensive line. But I feel as if after that kind of embarrassing Raiders loss, they've kind of straightened themselves up and they've really shown that, give Lamar some time, and he's good to go.
That's a great answer. Josh, do you have anything to add to that?
Yeah, I would certainly say to, Lamar's game, it's vastly improved. And I think what happens is with the addition of a Derrick Henry, it takes the pressure off Lamar. Typically we've been talking amongst ourselves in a lot of Ravens group chats and amongst friends, and it might be for the first time that you may not see 1,000 yards rushing out of Lamar Jackson for the first time in his career, because Henry's already have that. He's got 1,100, which is phenomenal. The Ravens already boast 1,000-yard rusher, and we're approaching the 11th game here. So, with that attack, Lamar can actually do what he can do and showcase that, and he's vastly improved. Also, I love the fact that he has a great supporting cast around him. Now, Mark Andrews had a slow start, but he's emerging to the all-pro tight end as we knew he would be. Isaiah Likely's emerged. Bateman's been out there producing. Zay Flowers as well. And then you have some unsung heroes. You have Nelson Aguilar out there, and also Tim Wallace coming on late, making some big plays. So they can hit you from anywhere. But Lamar spreads the ball around, and he's showing that he can certainly take over that game. And then you've seen it with a couple of the runs he has, and making plays with the Bengals, and, throwing it on the sidelines for touchdowns and spinning and getting out of it. So he's being what Lamar does. He's being creative and having the game come to him. And for guys right now, has 24 passing touchdowns and only 2 interceptions. And those 2 interceptions were defense balls that were deflected, so off the receiver's hands. So he's having an incredible year. He's outpacing last year's MVP campaign statistically. He's already thrown for over 4,600 yards. If I believe it or not, he's either the leading passer in NFL or he's the leading passer in the AFC. It's impressive. And I don't know, as a defensive coordinator, Jeff, how do you stop it? Because you have Derrick Henry back there. They got Justice Hill, and now they got Keaton Mitchell healthy. There's a 3-headed attack in the rushing attack, and then now you got to stop Lamar. It's like, good luck, man. And you've seen a lot of defensive players this season in the NFL look embarrassed, and they got those like looking and they're reaching for him, and they got a lot of nice photo opportunities, because it's like, good luck, man. And like Tomlin said, it's a multi-year, MVP, and he called him Mr. Jackson for a reason. He knows all about him, and good luck trying to stop it.
I'm glad neither of you brought up Deontay Johnson, because he's not worth
not.
bringing up. But anyways,
what has he done?
I know,
what
exactly.
Has he done? There's an article.
If you want to drop passes, bring him in the game.
What's that? Sorry.
If you want drop passes, bring him in the game. He's great at that.
Well, he slipped on the one on the one game for us. He slipped. So
yeah,
I'm still trying to figure out what that trade was about, because
depth.
They're very deep at receiver, and they didn't really use him yet. And I'm like, I don't understand. Look, I never questioned the Ravens front office, but this was one I was kind of scratching my head about. Like, really? You need to address defense, and you get Deontay? For what reason? It's not like we had receivers hurt, or and again, he hasn't been used. So, but they were talking return to Pittsburgh, and I'm like, you're just getting filler for news now, man. But I'm looking forward to playing against Patrick Queen. That's what I'm looking forward to.
Well, and that's what I want to bring up here. The last thing before I let you guys go is this. Yeah. I feel like this is like and we're running a new era of this rivalry. Everyone still clings at times to the early 2000s, the Ray Lewis, Hines Ward, Troy Polamalu, Ed Reed, all that stuff. And rightfully so. That was a golden era of this rivalry. But I feel like we're now entering this new era, which is there's a lot of players that played for both teams now. So even if you want to dip your toes, I talked about Arthur Millette. Chris Wormley's back on your all's practice squad, who spent time with Baltimore and Pittsburgh. You have Deshaun Elliott, who has spent time with Baltimore. He was drafted by the Ravens, I do believe. Patrick Queen, obviously. Jeremiah Moon, who the Steelers poached off the waiver wire when you all cut him last year in the playoffs, trying to get him back on your practice squad, and the Steelers picked him up. So there's a lot of ties between this team that is not just directly related to the AFC North. So with that being said, Brandon, I want to start with you. How do you see this game playing out, and what's your take on this rivalry as it continues to evolve?
I think with these players and how they're kind of bouncing back and forth, some of them are taking this game way more personally, and then some other people are saying like it's just another day in the office, and I don't know what to expect. I mean, like Deshaun Elliott, he brought up on Marlon Humphrey's podcast. Obviously, they're still friendly. He's kind of angry at what happened. He said that, the Ravens kind of made everybody think he was injury prone, and he's been in the league 7 years now, and he really likes Pittsburgh and is feels at home there. And this is going to be a show me what you got type of game for him. Patrick Queen's been more quiet, and I kind of like that about Patrick Queen, given the fact that he's kind of like, I'm going to show you on Sunday why you guys should have kept me. So, he's kind of put your money where your mouth is type of deal. This one, I think still, this is Ravens Steelers. It's going to be a game in the trenches. It's going to be low scoring. I think this is going to be just one that is going to be a hard knocks type of game. Right before we started talking, I said I was looking up Ravens Steelers information, and that's what everybody's talking about this week. I was like, wait, there's a Kansas City Chiefs game against the Bills. Like, that's going to be like, that's a playoff game. But no, everybody's still talking about Ravens Steelers because this is appointment television. This is something that everybody wants to see because they know these games, like, everybody's going to be tired. The fans are going to be tired after this game because it takes so much out of you.
Prime time. I alluded
it
to
should be
one of our shows. I was like, you have big boxing and UFC matches. It's fight weekend. Why is this bout not Sunday Night Football? This deserves. But hey, Jeff, I'll tell you this: we get the primetime game at home and right for Christmas, so we'll take it. But everybody, even Grant just said it this week. This is the best rivalry in football. You can sit there and you want to debate on these shows about Bears, Packers, and any other huge rivalry, right? But when you hear Ravens, dude, my skin crawl. Ravens, Steelers, and it just the juice flowing like that. It's hard, dude. Think about the bouts that we've had in this historic rivalry. Like they were pulling it up this week, right? And they were showing all the pictures. Like you had the Hines Ward and Ed Reed pulling the jerseys, and you remember Joey Porter, and just think about those moments and just the back and forth and the record against each other with these two teams and how close every game is. Like you already know it's going to be probably a 4-point game either way. Like you just know, like rarely do these teams blow each other out, and it's a rarity. And I can't wait to see what happens this weekend.
But this is going to be a different type of game because Matt Abike on the Lounge podcast was bringing this up, and he said, look, we can watch the Ray Lewis highlights and the Ed Reed highlights and all that stuff. It's a different game now. You can't play that game. The stuff that they were doing back in the day would get us flags nowadays. So it's funny that this rivalry is still must-see TV, even as the game has evolved. So is this rivalry. So this is still something. It's going to be a hard knocks game. It really is. If you like old school football, you're going to want to watch the Ravens Steelers because that's just the way that they play.
I do have a question for you, Jeff.
Yeah, what's up? Sure.
Are you, given the Steelers start, are you surprised?
At what?
Like their start. Yeah, like how the offseason with the quarterbacks and all that. Are you surprised with a 7-2 start right now?
No, I'm not. I actually think they could have been better. You look at the losses to Indianapolis and Dallas. Those are not two good football teams, and both were by 3-point deficits. And I think the Steelers did what they were supposed to do in a weakest part of their schedule, and that is put themselves in a good position to have a stretch run where they're playing for the AFC North championship. And that's exactly what they've done. And so here you have, they still have all 6 of their division games remaining. The only other team in the NFL that is in that same position are the Chicago Bears. So they haven't even, this is their first divisional game on Sunday, the Pittsburgh Steelers. And so that's going to be interesting. And it's all in front of them. It's not going to be easy. I think it's a very challenging road. Not only do they have those games, the other 2 games left at Philadelphia and at home versus the Chiefs. So it's a tough road for the Steelers down the stretch. But no, I'm not surprised they're at 7-2. Will I be surprised if they only have 2 losses when they're getting ready for the Christmas Day game against the Chiefs? Yes, I would be very surprised if they only had 2 losses there. But they've done what they're supposed to do, and now let's see how they handle the tough part of their schedule, and it starts on Sunday. So, gentlemen, I thank you as always for your time. It's very gracious. Why don't you guys plug what you've been doing and any social media handles you want to do? Brandon, you want to do the duties of that?
Absolutely. So you could check out the Baltimore Ravens podcast called The Call. It's available wherever you listen to podcasts, and we are proud members of the Fans First Sports Network. You can follow me on X at Brando Cash. I'm on Blue Sky. That's a new thing, apparently, at Brando Cash. I don't know what that is, but I reserved the name on there anyway. So if you're on Blue Sky, I need some followers, so check me out there. But we do the Call podcast, and Josh and I have been starting something new this year called the Wake Up Call, and that is where we kind of do some Monday morning reviews of the Sunday games. We kind of put some reviews out of just news happening throughout the week, little snippets, little quick shows, 10-minute shows. So if you want to check out more of the Baltimore Ravens stuff, all you have to do is subscribe to the Call, the Wake Up Call, and the regular Call podcast, all in the same feed. So you guys get all the content in the world and enjoy it, because we love doing it.
There you go. Josh, any social media handles you want to plug?
Yeah, absolutely. You can find me on X at AJ_Murr. And look forward to always talking football and any other stuff out there. It's always fun to go back and forth with fans. It's great.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot for your time. Enjoy the game. We'll be talking soon.
Good luck.
Thank you.